Hey everyone, it's Jen with Spirited Saturdays, and before I get to talking about the topic, I just want to let you know that 2 years ago today I left my inpatient treatment stay, and I thought that was interesting because it falls on a video day, and also because the day that I entered treatment 2 years ago also fell on my video day. So yay, and feel like a little bit of full circle-ness happening there. And just want to thank you so much for being a part of my journey, my recovery. You've been a vital part of it, so thank you. So today we are talking about moving and having an eating disorder. I do want to talk about, at some point in the future, moving as it pertains to like moving into a treatment center or out of a treatment center, but not today. But I want to. It just occurred to me that I wanted to do that. Today I want to focus on moving like from one home to another. So for me, I can say that some of my moving patterns, which have been a little all over the place, a little chaotic, short spurts here and there, explain the reliance on my eating disorder. So getting bored of a place or not being able to handle being in a place or needing something else for some reason explains the roots of my eating disorder in part. Unwillingness to see something through, not really commit to a place, those are qualities that contributed to my eating disorder. Not being able to be consistent with things in my life, needing one thing to be good at, needing one thing to call my own throughout chaos in my head, throughout throughout a lot of things that I was trying to do, and then I self-sabotaged. The eating disorder kind of provided me something to hold on to throughout, something to kind of calm that chaos and sort of feel like I can rely on even when everything else was falling apart. And of course, once the eating disorder came into the picture, it was falling apart. It was, the things falling apart were compounded by the eating disorder itself. So I think everybody can relate to this on some level, kind of feeling the eating disorder calms something, kind of calms the chaotic feeling. Perhaps, take that however you will. But, we know that it's justified in that it's understandable why you would see it that way, why anybody would see it that way, and that's kind of what makes it so addictive, I think. But it really ends up, obviously, as we all know, sabotaging, that very attempt to get some relief. It sabotages that tenfold. So I wanted to talk about myself a little bit, my history. I lived in one place until going to college, and during college, as most people that I knew did, I lived in a few different dorm rooms and a few different on-campus apartments over my time there. Throughout several of my moves during and after college, I still had my eating disorder. It was the one thing that I adapted to, or that adapted to my environment wherever I was. And I may have at times moved with the best intentions of letting it go. Not that that was the only reason I was moving, but it usually resurfaced because no matter where I was, it needed to carve out a space for itself. So whether I lived with people or by myself, I made room for it. After college, I transported myself to various apartments around the city, around New York, trying to find that one place, and then I would end up leaving. Where I'm living now, and have been for the past 9 months, has been the first place I've lived since leaving treatment 2 years ago, where I have not been eating disordered. 2 years ago, I wouldn't have been able to imagine myself living alone and not being eating disordered, but it goes to show that it's not as much about the place or the accessibility to behaviors as it is about the state of mind. I guess it's a combination, but when I was sick, I used to take into accountability, accessibility. I used to take into account the accessibility to my eating disorder when I moved to a place. I used to think of living alone as kind of the ideal opportunity to be as eating disordered as I wanted. Now I live alone, and I consider it an opportunity to be free of my eating disorder in my own space and do things that I love to do, that I get the space to do. So play my keyboard as much as I want to. That has been an amazing freedom, and other things too. Um, obviously it is about the place and accessibility to behaviors if you're vulnerable, for sure. But on the flip side, a person who is severely in their eating disorder might find a way to act on behaviors even in the most inconvenient situations. And so while inconvenient situations can provide a buffer or a distractor from thinking too much about food or being tempted to do behaviors or doing behaviors, if that person is not at all willing to change, they can and may create space for their eating disorder somehow. Um, but that is not to say that a person who starts out totally unwilling can't become willing to change. So they can, of course they can. There's always hope for anyone with any level of willingness, even no willingness. There's always opportunity to develop willingness. And where there's willingness, you can let the inconveniences, you can let the blocks, you can let those, being surrounded by people or, things like that, you can let those things help you in your recovery because they give you room, they give you space between yourself and the behavior. And then you can use that space to redirect. So when you move to a new place, try and make it as difficult as possible for your eating disorder to show up. Set it up with the most preventative measures that you can. Make accommodations for your recovery. If you are suffering from another kind of illness, you might set up the house in ways that make it easier for you to get around or make it easier for you to relax or for you to have easy access to the things that you need. So set up the house or the home to make recovery from your eating disorder within reach, whatever that means for you. And so to help prevent problems and to help resolve them when they come up. Make recovery accessible, not the eating disorder. Make recovery accessible and the eating disorder inaccessible. Make it harder for yourself to be disordered. And that's going to bring up very uncomfortable feelings. And this is why you need support. Sorry, I have to sneeze. I won't. It's one of those like, do I or don't I? Okay, it's okay. So yeah, this is why you need support because because dealing with the uncomfortable feelings that come up when you're not acting on your eating disorder is very difficult, and that's why you need support. So whether that's in the form of a therapist or another kind of support, it's important that you have someone to bring this to. It's going to need a release somehow. Set up the place for self-soothing techniques, whatever that is for you. Easy access to self-soothing techniques. Set up the place to be soothing as soon as you walk in, so like keeping incense going, for example. Establish a positive role for yourself in the community early on. Reach out to others, say hello, try to be open to others, warm, welcoming to you, and keep those in your thoughts, those moments or those people when something negative happens in your community or an interaction, and you have that positivity to hold on to. Seek out the appropriate support. Find out what and where it is and who it is before you even get there. Explore. Don't be afraid to explore your new surroundings. Set it up for yourself so that you can associate your surroundings with things other than your eating disorder, things you love and enjoy. And if you root this new place with those associations, your chances of recovery are stronger. And don't put too much pressure on yourself, lastly. Moving is very, very stressful. And the process of leaving someplace, being in transit, and settling in those first days and weeks and more is very stressful, and it would be for anybody. So don't be hard on yourself. Take breaks when you need to. Ask for help. Be gentle with yourself if urges are coming up. Tell yourself that it's understandable that you'd be having them and that you don't need to resort to them. They make sense, and you can, with this awareness, redirect those urges. So, be easy on yourself. Reach out for support and establish the supportive structure in your community, and do as much as that. Just do as much of that as you can in advance, and maybe link up to people that maybe you know through a friend in that community and connect to them. So take as many preventative measures as you can beforehand, and once you're there, just try and keep the living space and your own state of mind as recovery oriented as possible to set up the strongest possible chances of maintaining or reaching recovery in your new place. So that's that, and I hope you're all doing well and had a great Thanksgiving and are starting to have a great rest of holiday season, and I'll see you next week. Okay, bye.